Welcome to Going Deeper into Dev Marketing by Developer Market Pair, a show where we go beyond surface level, advise, and focus on actionable insights that dev tool founders and marketers can use to grow today. We'll do long interviews with top dev tool marketers, solo deep dives with yours truly, sprinkled with real life examples and teardowns. This will be fun. Oh, and yes, this was AI generated, but the rest of the show is very personal. Now, on to the show.
Hey, so today we're talking to Aditya Ramakrishnan from Reo.dev. He's an ex-marketer at Stripe, ex-marketer at ImageKit, all developer products. And I got to know about Aditya, Aditya a little bit through his LinkedIn content, which is fantastic, by the way. And the first post I saw that made me follow was the one around Reddit. Aditya has amassed 40,000 karma points over time and has been, we're going to go into those war stories later, but, had a lot of success and a lot of learnings from trying things out in there. It's going to be a super exciting conversation for me talking about Reddit and doing that, especially now that Reddit is getting more and more interest from B2B marketers in general, which I think is about time we all wake up, I guess, and start being there more. It's great to see you here, Aditya. And if you could maybe introduce yourself, tell a little bit about what are you doing over at Rio, and a little bit about your history.
Sure. Thanks, Jakub. Great to be here. I mean, I'm a huge fan of your newsletter. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters, but I think yours is the only one which I read religiously every week and make notes because it's so pointed and action-oriented and not like high-level advice, right? It's very action-oriented, so I love that. And yeah, I've been in marketing for about 13, 14 years now. Bulk of that, about 10 years, I've been in B2B SaaS across many different stints, but I've had 3 different stints in developer marketing. My very first B2B SaaS, in fact, was running a cloud hosting business, which we tried to compete in Asia Pac with DigitalOcean and AWS. A lot of good growth hacking back in 2018, 2019. We got up to a few thousand MRR before things were reorganized in the holding company and we had to merge it with another business. But that was my first deep dive into how challenging and unique and different it is selling to developers. Then, of course, I had the Stripe stint, which was also very interesting because it's a mix of developer advocacy and then also founders and business owners in terms of how they want to build their payment stack. But my deepest developer marketing stint was at ImageKit over the last 2 years. I was VP marketing, handled the entire dev stack. ImageKit is a media optimization API. So very classic developer marketing problem, right? Full PLG, developers sign up with their Gmail address. They will use the product primarily through API calls, so they don't even show up in product. And then suddenly they'll hand raise for a demo call and they're ready for an enterprise deal. And we have no idea that they've even been evaluating our product for months at a time, right? And the unique thing, especially, I think with all dev tools, is that you really have to sync your communication with the particular use case or problem that the developers are solving. You can't go generic, right? And especially with an API tool, they could be using it for a dozen different use cases. So it is always a big part of our thought process. Like, how do we align our messaging, our content marketing, even our paid marketing around what kind of problem the developers are solving and not just go generic, right? So did that for a couple of years. I took a sabbatical last year, just wanted to spend more time with my family and my rapidly growing toddler. And yes, earlier this year, I was looking at new opportunities and I just came across Reo.dev. I think it got posted in one of the groups I was on. I looked at the website and my first instinct was, where was this tool for the last 2 years? I so desperately needed something like this when I was at ImageKit. And I spoke to the founders. I think there was a good vibe all around. And now I lead product marketing for Reo.dev. Reo.dev itself is basically an activity and intent signals product, a revenue intelligence tool specifically targeted at dev tools selling to developers. The reason being is that the activities that developers do are completely different from what you would see when you're selling any tool to anyone else, right? Typically, you'll see website visits, you'll see visits to the pricing page, you'll see ad impressions, you'll see social media activity. But developers, it's completely different. If you have an open source product, then you'll see GitHub stars, you'll see forks on the product, you'll see product signups, you'll see product usage, you'll see reading of the documentation. All that is the kind of signals that you need to track and understand when you're selling to developers, which is not done very well, and definitely not a focus for any of the other activity signal tracking tools available in the market. So Reo that way fills a very great niche if you're selling to developer tools. So that is a very big thing for me. The second big angle, which makes me super excited about the space, and kind of the primary reason why I joined the company, is that in the post AI era, I feel developers are going to become a key part of every buying cycle. You may be selling to product marketers, you may be selling to CFOs, but when different systems are talking to each other, your system needs to talk to a data warehouse or an LLM, or you have API calls. Developers are involved in that buying process. They may not be talking to you as part of your GTM motion, but they're there in the background. So then I feel going forward over the long term, every company, whoever you may be your primary buyer, needs to be thinking about how developers are involved in their buying cycle. So that's what was super interesting about Reo.dev and kind of got me involved. It was a great way to
Add to this. I'd add to this one thing where because you talked about a future. By the way, I kind of want to go back as well and touch a tiny bit on those three DevTool companies that you help market. But on that future of developers being involved, I think there is a part where we just will have more builders.
Correct.
And builders, even if you wouldn't call yourself a developer, but you're building an app on, Lovables, V0s or whatnot, it is very much builder mentality. It is very much looking for, hey, how do I solve this particular problem? What tool solves it? Can I try that it solves it? Et cetera, connecting those different things together, building POCs, fixing stuff, figuring out how others did it. This is dev marketing. It's just you're coding with English rather than with a particular set of technologies, or you need to learn some of those technologies perhaps. But I think that part is very exciting and very interesting, where I think it will just push more across the board, so that every marketer becomes a little bit more dev marketer. Correct. I think,
Yeah.
So yeah, just a note, but I think it's like an exciting time. But if we could come back to those three companies, right? And I wonder, what are the learnings that you took from, if there's maybe a one or two learning from each of those experiences that you had that you carry to the next ones, and then that you will hold with you for the rest of your career. What are those?
Absolutely. I think from my first stint was a huge learning curve, because it was the first time I was selling to developers, and probably one of my earliest B2B SaaS stints in itself. But I think my biggest learning out of that was two things. Like, developers will consume a lot of content. Any developer is a very strong subject matter expert, and coding as a field, software engineering as a field, moves so fast that they really have to consume a lot of content to stay up to date with their space, right? Even if you take something as simple as like front-end development, HTML and CSS have been around for decades, but things have moved, things have progressed, things have improved, right? There's so many new frameworks. So even a front-end dev is day and night reading and learning more to stay up to date. And if you want to have some mind space, you have to be putting out content around your product and around the use cases and the problems that they're solving. You cannot take, as a marketer, you cannot take an advertising first or an events first approach to your marketing. Content has to be a very central part of what you do. My biggest learning from Stripe, I think, was that brand really matters, even to developers, right? I think there's that conventional wisdom that developers are brand agnostic and they are resistant to marketing, but I feel the opposite. They're human. They are as open to brand impressions as everybody else. They have their own brand affinities. You look at any developer's laptop and it's covered with stickers, right, from Google and AWS and everything. That just shows that, yeah, they like those brands. And we used to see that very often, especially in the APAC region with Stripe, because Stripe's a global business, a global brand. There are a lot of local competitors who may, for certain use cases, actually be better because they're better uh, coverage of certain payment methods. But Stripe's brand is so strong that we would get that powerful push from the developers within our prospects saying, we want to use Stripe because the Stripe product is so good, the API is so good, the docs are so good. Even if the business owner is like, no, that other competitor is giving me a better rate or they're better coverage for this particular payment method. That's when it kind of struck me that brand really matters even when you're selling to developers, because that will build up. They may not say anything, they may not show up for events or anything like that. They're totally silent. But when the problem strikes, when the use case shows up, if you're in that top of mind mental availability for developers, or you are a loved brand like Stripe was for developers, it gives you a huge head start that's very difficult to uh, compete
Yeah,
against.
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, I think there is, especially with devs, I think there's that part where there is a reported behavior, and then there is the actual behavior, and you have
Correct.
the reported behavior being extremely meritocratic, extremely, matter of fact, objective, and then you see the actual behavior, right, being just human, and
Correct.
but I think. But especially on the side of like brand and both like company brands and personal brands, I think devs really trust it. Really trust those folks who built that brand of being an actual thought leader, not the you know um, not the fluffy one, but like the actual person who knows what they're doing, sharing their story. Those
Correct.
people, they have incredible influence. Incredible. Like, think
Yes.
about Guillermo Rauch or folks like this is like, this is nothing you can buy basically, with any
Absolutely. Yeah.
ads or anything you can do, right? And same goes for brands. When you build it to the love level of Stripes, what happens is, yeah, like, you're going to be the default in every discussion. And maybe if the alternative solution is just like so much better, than you choose the other one. But otherwise, like, you go for that trust because you know that they likely will be building, they likely will be improving. You can trust that it likely will, solve your problem. So I think brand is super important. And it's interesting because, like, on one hand it's hard to measure, and on the other, every conversion goes up when you compare similar products, but the brand is so much stronger. Every outreach works better, every ad works better, every content piece, where everything works better when the
Correct.
brand is strong. And then but it is just a sort of a thing that pushes everything up. But I'm with you. Like, it would seem that it doesn't matter because you just compare based on facts as a dev more maybe than other folks. And I think there is truth to that, but I also think there is that part of a huge discrepancy between reported and actual behavior.
Absolutely, 100% agreed with you, right? And I really love what some of the dev tool brands are doing, especially the, like PostHog and a couple of others who are doing such interesting
Oh
work
yeah.
around their brand. And I think they're doing as well as brands in outside B2B even, right? In terms of building their brand and their
Yeah. Yeah,
identity.
I think that the good ones are, and that's sort of an angle that I'm excited about. More companies doing fun stuff. You see insecurity. You have both Aikido doing super funny stuff for me. I love what they're doing,
Yeah,
and then Wiz also, with all their famous booths that look like Walmarts and stuff like that. Like, it's just so much fun, and so much, so many things that you just want to share, and you just want to, see that that's a sort of fun part to it. So I like that people are using that. We had Itamar Benier on the podcast, and he actually took some of those B2C style ads from TikTok to LinkedIn, hiring actors to be CTOs or heads of data or stuff like that, and just like doing this style of ad, which is a completely B2C ads, and they are performing really well. So I think that trend of like making things more human, more, sort of B2C, but like more human, less, let's pretend that everything is going to be objective and everyone is doing that, where there is a part of it and it's a bigger part. And if you're in B2C and you're just deciding whether you want to buy a can of Pepsi or cola, but yeah, you will still be swayed by the brand. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Absolutely. And I think the two things come together, right? The fact that developers consume a lot of content and there is that soft building up of a brand's equity in their mind space. So they may not need ImageKit for years, but they're consuming content. They will see ImageKit or they'll see Stripe's content out there, and that brand builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And then 3 years, 5 years, whenever down the line, when they actually have a problem to solve, then they're like, okay, I remember that. I know that someone, the CTO will ask them, okay, what tool do we use for media optimization? And say, yeah, I remember ImageKit. I want to use that. And
Yeah.
that's a head start right up there, right? So using content to build up your brand slowly is a huge tool, I feel, for every dev tool. And you have to kind of put aside the entire attribution piece of it sometimes and say, okay, I'm writing content. I will get signups, I will get traffic, I will track that, but that's not the entire story. There is a degree of equity and reputation that I'm building with my audience, which will compound over time because a lot of these devs will read it. They are not going to say anything or do anything because they don't need to solve that right now. And but when they
Yeah.
do, we need to be like in the top one, two uh, brands that they recall. They
Yeah.
will do their research. They will look for alternatives, but that starting advantage is pretty huge.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's there's research on that too, where like yes, you compile those short lists, but actually the first one that you knew, you end up choosing the first one that you remember, the most memorable one, the one that was actually defining the category somehow for you, was like just the first one that came up. You have a bias towards it, and even if you're comparing versus other things, like like we're humans, we're great at rationalizing our decisions post factum, so we
Yeah,
like you basically, to a large extent, maybe you made that decision, and unless a piece of evidence comes up that makes it, yeah, like it's clearly not good for us, maybe for this use case, then yeah. So by the way, I think that's why it's important for companies to also create that content where you talk comparisons, when you are comparing things from your perspective, but not in a disparaging way, but in a way where you just explain it like, well, this tool is awesome, obviously, like, it, everyone knows that this tool is good, but there is a part where, if you need this and that, then you should definitely, consider us, right? Or this is our point of view of how opinionate, how we want to build this particular piece of tech. And obviously there's a million ways of doing it, but if you're subscribing to this particular POV, then you may want to, look at it. But I think, yeah, like coming back to your point of content, yeah, like that. And there's so many good examples of that, right? Like you have, yeah, like DigitalOcean, that you competed with at the beginning, those, like, I think, as far as I know, I spoke with someone from there, like they got to a level where instead of Googling, people would just add DigitalOcean at the beginning because they wanted to get DigitalOcean tutorials for different things rather than just
correct.
any other tutorial. So imagine that, like, this is like, how do you compete with that? It's an amazing spot to be in. But there are examples of companies where, they were very strong in that SEO, side, as well, and like, all of those use cases really nicely covered. But there are examples like Fly.io or Tailscale that are doing content that is more focused perhaps on the, Hacker News crowd, or a different type of discovery than SEO. So like those posts, they read completely differently, they attract different people, but they are building that super strong brand where people just go, they want to just consume Fly.io blog. I hear that time and time again, like it's great blog. and
Correct. Yeah.
and there is content like that where, yeah, like, if you have to think about a particular distribution that you want to focus on, but more and more, it's not going to be SEO, I think, for a big chunk of content, unless you're in this solution where, in, sort of like deeper down the consideration. But the strength of the content will remain. People will have
Absolutely.
opinions, they will share them. It's just the way how they share them, what they do. And content is not just SEO content, as some, I mean, we all marketers sort of like put it together, like content marketing, like, you think SEO, like that's the big pillar of it, and it is, but there are other ones, and those other ones are, I think, getting more and more, important. And yeah, to your point, like, if you build that, if I think you know what you're talking about on the blog, then it's more likely that I'll think you know what you're building, like what you know what I need to build, and you actually build it in a way that is valuable for me because you understand the space.
Absolutely
Yeah.
correct, right? I think we did a pretty good job at ImageKit as well. Um, so we looked at content marketing from two lenses. One was, of course, the SEO piece, which we would look at keyword volumes, user intent, but that was primarily for us to decide what kind of format we wanted to do. But we had a larger set topic list which went beyond just what SEO told us. And the way we structured it was we used to have two blocks. One was out of market people who we need to influence, we need to get in front of with our content, but they may not be in market for a solution right now. And then those in market people who are actually looking for a solution or getting into that. And in market, we used to break down into top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And we had different content. And top, middle, bottom was defined by what kind of questions are people asking. So someone who's top of funnel in market is asking very high level questions like what is media optimization? Who are the players around? How does this help my business? When should I try to solve this problem? Is there a certain, can I manage without it till a certain point? Whereas bottom of funnel is going to go into exactly like what you said about comparisons, player one versus player two versus player three. And to your point on comparisons, right? I think it's super important. It's one thing where developer marketing is, I think, unique and different from every other audience that you're trying to sell to, because every developer, quote unquote, is a power user, right? No one they don't use any tool at a very surface, shallow level, right? Like I use Mixpanel, but I use it just to see dashboards. I don't actually build with that, but developers will do that. So it doesn't matter what the use case is, the use case will drive them to evaluate, but the evaluation will be comprehensive and complete, especially if it's a big ticket, high value deal. Like ImageKit, we used to do full PLG. So we had customers giving us $50 a month, but then we had enterprise deals which are hundreds and thousands of dollars a month. So when they get into that, that evaluation is going to be super comprehensive, and you need that content to support that, right? So it really helps doing all that work. And I think that was my big thing out of ImageKit as well, that the content is never done and the building is never done. There's always more use cases, there's always more content, there's always more formats that we can go after, right? I think we did a fairly big push towards the end around YouTube and building our product how-tos and working with influencers as well, because we had really basically tapped out everything on the traditional SEO blog. So it covered every keyword we could, but we're like, there's still people, especially the outer market folks, who are not searching for stuff, but we need to get in front of them. And more broader channels like YouTube and even Instagram and TikTok uh, would turn out to be fairly big channels in that space.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great learnings. I think it actually connects, like that last part with comparisons, like it connects to Reddit as well. As people want to get that peer validation of their decisions,
Correct.
or like understand what others are doing. And yeah, like some of it happens in in Slacks and Discords and just on meetups and in private conversations, but actually a good chunk of it also happens on Reddit. People are asking, and people are asking for alternatives. People are asking how people solve the use cases, and then that content is one, it shows up in Google pretty high. Two, even if it doesn't, lots of folks, they have that default of let me see what others are using, and they go to Reddit and check it out, or they add Reddit at the beginning of the search. So Reddit is actually important there as well, because not everyone is going to go to your site, or not only to your site, and obviously everyone knows that, yeah, in some shape or form you're going to be biased towards a particular POV. I mean, that's why you build a product, that's why you build a company. That's good, you should have a POV, but it's not the entire story. So I think that
Yeah.
connects really well to the Reddit story, and I think it will be a good sort of moment to maybe share that post with that post about Reddit that you shared some time ago. I'm just gonna share the screen. 1 second. Okay, this should be it. Let me see. Yep, I think that's the one.
Yeah.
Also shared in the meeting notes. Maybe I'll try and make it a tiny bit bigger. So I'll just try and read this super quick, and we'll go over some of those points in here. Unless maybe you would like to go over this this post and sort of like maybe add some color to it in some places if you felt that that made sense.
Sure. Yeah. This is a funny post because I think I was up late. My son was not well, so I was up late trying to help him put him to sleep, and I was skimming through LinkedIn, and I think I saw like a SEO person or an SEO influencer talk about how Reddit is getting more important. And they had a bunch of tips around how to use Reddit. And I looked at that. And I've been on Reddit for many, many years, probably about 15 plus years, right? And that's how I've basically accumulated the all that karma because I have maybe like 10, 12 accounts, and I have different accounts for different topics because like if I'm reading on AI, I don't want to have like sports showing up in that feed, right? So I have different accounts for browsing and engaging with different topics, which is why I have so many alts. I think my personal one has like 12, 15,000 karma, and then the rest is across another half a dozen accounts. And then there may be another dozen accounts with nothing on it. So I saw that post from somebody else and I was like, no, this is not, this is A, very high level advice, and B, that's not how you read it. And that's not how you do Reddit. So I think middle of the night, I just like sat down and banged this out while I was waiting for my son to fall asleep. And yeah, that's where this came across. And yeah, I've done quite a bit of Redditing and a bit less, but a decent amount of Reddit marketing as well. So that's where this came from. And I think the couple of things on this which are important is that really need to understand Reddit and also who you're talking to in Reddit itself. So the analogy that I was trying to explain this to someone at work as well, and the analogy I came up with is that if you go to a developer conference, right, the devs there are dev tools there, the sponsors, everyone's got their booth, everyone's being very nice, very polite, people are being pitched, people are pitching, everyone's being nice about it. That's LinkedIn. Reddit is the dark, loud sports bar around the corner where the devs have gone after the conference. And then you show up there as a sponsor. Are you going to set up a booth or are you going to hand out brochures in the bar? Probably not, right? You got to get into the atmosphere, be part of the conversation, uh, add some value, talk intelligent stuff, and get in on the conversations. And that's how you're going to build your rep and build attention, if I may put it that way, right? So I see that happening very often that we expect marketeers to have expertise in Twitter or LinkedIn, but we don't give that same respect to Reddit. Like you should have expertise in Reddit. So I think that's where it came from. That figure out who you're going to talk to. Are you going to talk to front end devs? Are you talking to full stack devs? Are you talking to database administrators? Are you talking to DevOps? Try and find that same person in the company. And this is a very powerful thing to do in dev marketing is get devs to be marketeers and be devs to be dev advocates. Because let's face it, the DevOps person in your company is going to be a lot better talking DevOps on Reddit than any marketeer is going to be, right? So that was my second thing, that get them and build them up as champions and build them up as advocates on Reddit. And the third thing is take some
Maybe
time.
on that point, if you can, maybe stop for a second, because I think that's really, it's a really, really good and really important point for both Reddit and Hacker News, which is in some ways similar, but in some ways I think Reddit is actually harder because you have heavy anonymous usage,
Correct.
which makes it even more even more aggressive in some ways,
Yeah,
but real in many others.
absolutely.
So I think in that sense, like, imagine going to that meetup. You're as a marketer, you go to that meetup, or you go to the to drinks afterwards with a few of those devs, and they're talking. They're talking shop. Like,
Correct.
can you really add to that conversation? And that's this part for me of like learning Reddit, or at least how I see it is like, oftentimes you have nothing to say, so you shouldn't say anything. Like, if
Exactly.
you don't
Don't.
have anything to say, you don't say it.
Correct, absolutely. And if you don't, exactly that, right? Like if you've gone out for drinks with two devs and they're talking about, say, the merits of super base versus quadrant, and you have no idea what they're saying, keep quiet, listen, learn. If there is something to add at some point, add value. Or,
Exactly.
okay, excuse yourself, join another conversation with another couple of devs in the, maybe they're talking about like Ruby on Rails versus Rust. And okay, there you know something, or you read something interesting, add some value. That's kind of the way to go about Reddit. And there's so much content happening on Reddit all the time that there's no shortage of spaces to learn and spaces to get involved and build up your comfort with the space, right? And yeah, that's a very good point that you brought up about anonymity and the power of the downvote. Because if you look at other social media like LinkedIn versus Twitter, there's a degree of learning from each other. There's a bit of convergence in the way Twitter works versus the way LinkedIn works. Like LinkedIn has brought in video and is trying to be like Instagram. Twitter brought in more longer posts. They broke their character length because they wanted to be more like LinkedIn. Reddit is before everybody, and they don't follow any of those rules. And the big thing is that it's anonymous, and there's the downvote. So if you say something stupid, if you say some nonsense, you will get downvoted. And your real life reputation is not going to help you. Like when I read LinkedIn, I see a post from you, Yakub, I will read it no matter what, because I know you and I respect your content and I will read it. If there's someone else who's junior, they may have written some great content. I don't know who they are, but it will still not get the same amount of attention as a post from you would. Reddit, all content starts equal, and an intern can out argue CTO on Reddit because they're all the same and the same usernames. And if the intern's content makes more sense, it'll get upvoted, and the CTO will get downvoted into oblivion, as they say on Reddit.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, no,
you
no,
have to lead with your
that's
content
completely
and
true.
just your content. You leave your reputation at the door.
Yeah, yeah. I think one more thing that I'd add to those things. So there's anonymity and sort of like equal footing for different people. There's the downvote that makes it actually more meritocratic.
Correct.
I mean, you can count like there are pods and there are people gaming things, but generally that's true, right? And then I'd add one more thing there, which is like it's text based. It's text first. And not only that, I'd say, I mean, obviously there's stuff with like people doing videos there as well, etc., etc. But generally, it is text first.
Yep.
And what I find interesting is like you actually, yeah, like the level of formatting is very specific. I mean, almost across the board. When you don't want to seem overly produced, so
Yep.
all the emojis, all the even excessive excessive bullet points sometimes, or excessive formatting that is arguably formatted better for reading experience. Like your post here is just it's an easy to skim, easy to read, right?
Yep.
But it's to me at least, it's obviously formatted for LinkedIn. How you
Mm-hmm.
should read things on LinkedIn. But then on Reddit, you go for those big blocks of text. A lot of the stuff, it just it just feels like like a normal person just writing something, not a marketer who knows how to organize text and stuff like it, which is interesting because people game it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you see that. But I think the text based or text first is an important part in the depth of the discussion, right? Because you're not gonna go. Yes, there will be stuff where where it's just fun and games with like memes and things like that, but a lot of this will be more depth and um and and it's just harder, I guess, to like in a pure text format to um to get the same level of doom scrolling and just like just clicking, just liking things here and there without reading anything. It's just like you need to put more energy into consuming, more energy into interacting. And I think there's that part that I like about Reddit, that it's maybe in some ways less, I don't know, addictive
Mm-hmm.
addicting in that way. Also keeps that level of real, and if you want a real conversation, then Reddit is probably the place.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think one thing that a lot of new marketers on Reddit try to do is they equate a comment on Reddit to the same way they would do a post on LinkedIn. But it's not that, right? People on Reddit, they're commenting literally side by side with whatever else they're doing. So if I have a comment on a post, I will just bang it out and send it in there. But I'm also present on the post and on the thread. And if someone replies, I will reply again. And that's how the conversation goes. No one just spends 30 minutes formatting a nice, cute post like we do on LinkedIn, push it out there and leave. They put in 3 lines, someone replies, they'll reply to that and then reply to that. And that's how you get that depth. And that's how the ongoing conversation goes. So I think that's the mindset shift a lot of people should do, is stop looking at a comment on Reddit like a tweet or a LinkedIn post. It's a comment is a comment and there's nothing like it, right? A post or a new thread on Reddit is also something that should be taken a lot more seriously, because people don't, like, if you pick out 100 random accounts on Reddit, you'll see that very few have actual post karma. Most have a lot of credit comment karma. So people don't make posts unless they have really good reason to do so. uh, I think dev marketers should think of a Reddit post like a product hunt launch, or almost like a launch event, rather than a LinkedIn post. Just because you've got something to say doesn't mean you make a post about it on Reddit. Mostly no one will care. It'll get downvoted or it'll get auto deleted. But if you've got something interesting to say, then yes, it will, or it's something newsworthy that the rest of the community cares about, then it's probably worth uh, pushing that out
Yeah,
there. I
I think on that front, just to touch on it, I think generally a good rule of thumb would be first be a lurker, just
Yeah.
read, just consume, just see how people discuss it in there. Then the second part is comment, and people, I guess I don't know, they undervalue the comments. I mean the marketers, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas I think yeah, it's like you can still get a lot of views on it. It can still be an incredibly important thing. Oftentimes, the consumers of Reddit, they just go, you just skim the post and then you go to comments. And if your comment is up, I might actually spend more time reading the comment than the comments that follow. But generally, the comment is lower risk, right? Because if somebody downvotes it, like or it just doesn't get seen, it's a lower, lower commitment, lower risk. It doesn't, it doesn't feel that bad, I guess. And then the post is the next level, right? Like it's if you actually have something to say that hasn't already been said, there is nothing, like there's actually something valuable to say, then you go for a post. Interestingly, and I kind of want to see how you think about that strategy. I saw a company, I think I saw a few now that post entire articles on the posts, right? So so you post an article with everything in there. So it's like a very long post, right?
Mhm.
So instead of sending you, to my blog, I just post the entire article in there, and then the discussion follows. And then I actually saw someone yeah, like boosted with ads, like that post after it got some organic stuff. And I thought it was like a very interesting approach. I haven't tried it yet. I don't know if you have tried, or what are your thoughts on this sort of tactic for posts?
I love that tactic, honestly, because I think people doing that are getting the point of Reddit and getting the point of making a post on Reddit. The reason to do that is to get an active conversation going, get people interested, have that conversation right there, and not to push them to your website. You want to do that, do a product hunt launch, or post ads on LinkedIn, or post ads on Google if you want to just push traffic to your website. Uh, but getting visible on Reddit is not about getting traffic to your website, it's about having those conversations. And by putting everything there, I don't know if Reddit has a certain algorithm, but I doubt it, because I think everything is driven by upvotes and downvotes. But yeah, it gets it out there. All the content is there. There's no reason to leave that post. You get the conversation going, and yeah, you it works. I think it's a great idea. The one thing that, if anyone's thinking of trying this, that I would say is coming to back at what I said about thinking of a post as a launch event, because if you put a post out, it blows up on Reddit. You get like few hundred upvotes and like conversation going. You and your team need to be present and being part of that conversation. You can't just post it at 6 p.m. and then disappear for drinks, right? You have to be involved and active, because I remember we did a post for an open source payment product uh, after I left Stripe, and this was a week before we did Product Hunt. We got 800 upvotes on the subreddit. We had like 40 questions coming in within 15 minutes. And credit to the team, I think like three managers, three engineers, and even the business head were on that post. They dropped everything and they were on that post pretty much all night answering questions. And that was like uh, the avalanche that started us, got our GitHub up to like 5,000 stars in a day, trending on Twitter, and from there, product of the day. But if we had just posted that and not been active the way we would do it on other channels, where like we post on LinkedIn and then we come back like hours later or a day later to respond to comments, then you lose the momentum on Reddit. You have to be
Yeah,
there, be active, just like a press
I'm with you.
release.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. By the way, Could you maybe share that after the call, the link to that, if you have it somewhere, so that we can share
Yeah,
it with our listeners? But I do think, like something you mentioned there, that is a problem sometimes, is where marketers want to do the launch on Reddit, right? And but you don't get the buy-in from anyone who can actually engage in those conversations, because you understand the platform enough that that you will be able to answer some questions, but most of the questions come from most of the people that you'd like to have that conversation with. You cannot really answer. If a CTO of, I don't know, Snowflake asks a question about your particular technology, or a piece of how is that solved, like this is a CTO level question, or at least a product manager question, or if not a founder question, that should be answering. And yeah, like but at the same time, like, you should appreciate it, I think. And how often do you have a chance to have that discussion, right?
correct.
Because it will be hard to get that person on a call if you tried, if you spend whatever amount you wanted on ads to get that call with that person, and now you have them and they are interested and they are asking,
Correct.
and if you're not there, or if it is a person who's way lower at the technical depth, and answers that question because no one else is there to answer, then this is basically the face of the company that you're putting forward. So I think it's very important for Reddit and Hacker News as well. It's
Yeah,
extremely important to have people who can actually answer those questions at a level that people asking them expect, right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
dev to dev, technical.
Yeah, and also you need to have real conversations. I remember this when we were competing with DigitalOcean, and there used to be a lot of conversations on Hacker News around DigitalOcean versus AWS, DigitalOcean versus Vulture back then. And the CTO and CMO of DigitalOcean at the time, uh, I remember Mitch was the CMO. I forget who the CTO was, who was also the co-founder. They used to get involved in Hacker News conversations themselves, and you
Mm-hmm.
could make out it's not someone writing through the handle, but they themselves are writing because there used to be that natural flow to things. And they used to even set the record straight because someone will say that, oh, I used DigitalOcean and they deleted my account. And they would get in on those conversations themselves and say, no, we deleted this account for very good reasons. This is what really happened. And that's fantastic way of controlling the conversation, controlling your reputation, and not kind of being at the mercy of someone complaining about you. As we do,
Yeah.
right? And it was very real. They would be willing to push back against someone criticizing them, which is very anti-conventional wisdom of a brand, right? Most brands will, if someone's criticizing them, they will be like, "I hear you. Let's take this to DMs." No, on Reddit and
Mm-hmm.
Hacker News, you set the record straight. Otherwise, bad impressions get made uh,
Mm-hmm.
right
Mm-hmm.
away.
I
So
like
yeah,
that.
I remember them
I
doing
like
that
that.
very well back
Mm-hmm.
then.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a point to be made here as well, like that having that founder or a senior, technical leadership person being involved in those discussions, being that, not necessarily all the time, but at least some of the time being there. This is an unfair advantage because most of the companies will not do it because the time is precious, and you don't want to do it, etc. And I get that, and there's point, it does make sense. But if you have a CTO or a founder, technical founder who is involved, use that, because this is something that most companies will not
Correct.
have, because this is marketing. This is something like we need to build a product, and that's true. But I find it extremely powerful when you have those folks having those discussions and actually learning from the from the devs, but also building that credibility, trust, understanding that this is like, if there is a problem, I can, this guy will answer. If I tag him on Twitter, like, he will likely answer if there is a big problem, if something is happening. And I think ClickHouse was known for it at the beginning, where I think they were posting the things on Hacker News, how they how how particular problems with distributed databases, or hyper resilient database, how did they solve them, or like what are they trying to do, what are the problems, da da da. And those were the founders, and then almost founding engineers that were posting this. And and I think that's and they build a lot of trust, with like very senior devs understanding what they are building, right, and what they are doing. So and even recently, one startup I worked with, they post on Hacker News. Actually, they had something connected to ClickHouse, and that was a CPO of ClickHouse, asking a question.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
it's incredible, and I think it like builds this brand, that the thing that we talked about at the beginning, very strongly within the dev community.
Absolutely, yeah. It helps. It helps. And I think you don't even have to entirely rely on your dev leadership because, yeah, I get it. CTOs are busy, CPOs are busy, but even if you have a senior dev or a team lead um, who's got maybe more time, more bandwidth, more energy to get into Reddit, then absolutely leverage that because it comes back to what we're talking about, like anonymity. That if there's a question being asked or if someone's talking about your brand and you need to get in on that conversation, it doesn't matter who it is as long as you can do the content outright, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be the CTO necessarily to do that. In DigitalOcean's
Mm-hmm.
case, it was amazing because they're a big business already, like probably crossed tens of millions of ARR, but their founding team was getting in on Hacker News. But it could just as easily have been a lead developer doing it and it would have worked just as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think what I'd add there is that if somebody's not doing this already, it's very hard to get people to do it. But sometimes you have people who are doing it, and
Yeah,
you can help them do more of it, right? So
yeah,
so you can try and make that happen, because like, yeah, getting people to do what they don't do already is always harder than
yeah,
just helping people do more of what they already like and enjoy in the channel, being Reddit. Some
correct.
people really enjoy it and some don't, so, and I get that.
Yeah. And it honestly doesn't take that long. It maybe takes a couple of weeks, 3 weeks to a month of being really active on Reddit to get your feet wet and get comfortable. Yes, to get really pro at it probably will take a couple of months, but it's not honestly as difficult and intimidating as it would seem. Yes, it looks very different from other social media networks, which makes it look intimidating. Oh my God, it's walls of text, and they have perma bans, and they have downvotes, and all this new stuff that we don't see on any other network. But honestly, it's not as difficult as all that, right? And yeah, I would even say if someone is starting out new on Reddit, spend a week away from your work subreddits. Just spend time on like r/soccer or r/NFL or r/hockey. Learn to Reddit, build up that post, build up some karma there, get your feet wet before you get into the high stakes business or dev subreddits where you actually need to do something. Because yeah, you go in there and you have no karma, you may get auto banned. Uh, so
Yeah.
it makes
Plus,
sense. Yeah,
plus,
spend a couple of weeks and before you get into
yeah,
the deep end.
yeah. I'm with you. I think there's a part where, oftentimes it's even very hard to verbalize what is wrong about a particular post or a comment, but it's wrong. And when you spend enough time in a subreddit, like, I remember in the early days of Neptune, we had that where I had some posts that got some hundreds of upvotes and so, and but I spent a ton of time in our machine learning. Like, I
Yeah,
remember spending a ton of time there. I just like
yeah,
so you just spend there, you just see what people write, you get a
yeah,
thread of the discussion, the words people use, the
yeah,
acronyms, you mentioned them in the post, and things like that, where you post it even in your internal Slack sometimes, and people are like, what is that? And then,
yeah,
yeah, but it's like how you communicate there. and
absolutely.
and and but then you try to explain to someone new, someone who you'd like to maybe take over commenting, or you set up some social listening, and you want people to interact, not you being involved, and you try to scale, and it's hard because sometimes people think they're answering, but they are not really spending enough time in that subreddit to feel it, to have that feel of what goes, like what feels like appropriate answer in that
Correct.
subreddit. And
Yeah.
it's hard to create a formula, I think, sometimes, because yeah, like maybe now with ChatGPT it's easier. I haven't really tried that yet, like going deeper into a particular subreddit, and learning the guideline basically of how people comment here, etc. I wonder if that would work, but I don't know, because it's
I
yeah,
think
I don't know.
I think 80-90% of it is just learning how Reddit works in itself and how
Mm,
Reddit people talk on Reddit. Because like no one is spending time only on r/machine learning.
mm,
They're learning. They're also on
mm-hmm,
all other subreddits. So there is that degree
mm-hmm,
of commonality. And yes,
mm-hmm,
certain subreddits may again have within that a little more 10% more different way of operating. But a lot of that also comes down to how the subreddits are moderated. I got perma-banned on r/marketing just last week because I very genuinely not trying to promote it, but I put a link in my post, and apparently that's banned, and I got perma-banned. So I've written to the mods, and I'm hoping they unban me. It was a genuine mistake. But yeah, some of that is also down to how strictly these subreddits are moderated, right? And typically, very large subreddits like r/marketing, I think is like 3 million people, will get more aggressively moderated. Anything that gets a lot of, say, promotional content, like right now, r/na10 is getting a lot of promotional content where people are
Which
building
one?
out
Sorry.
na10
Uh,
r/na10, the
uh-huh.
workflow automation tool, because a lot of people are building out quote unquote AI agents, which are really just workflow automations and trying to sell them. So they're going and posting it on that subreddit. So those something like that will get aggressively moderated, right? But generally, it's fairly open. I always check the rules before you get in, and yeah, if you spend a couple of weeks, it gets a lot easier because you'll not fall on the wrong side of most of the rules, like promotional and stuff like that. Uh, I've also found it like when training other people to get onto Reddit that someone who's good at Twitter, uh, for them it's a lot easier because there is a certain commonality there about the conversations being real time and uh, replying to threads and replying to tweets and it happening in a lot more real time. Someone who's active on LinkedIn to Reddit is a big step because LinkedIn is very asynchronous. You put out announcement style posts like this one, and then you come back later to answer the comments or you get someone else to answer the comments from your handle. But that doesn't work in Twitter and it doesn't work in Reddit, of course. But if someone's active on Twitter, especially among your founders, if there's someone active on Twitter, it's conceptually fairly easy to get active on Reddit. But yes, that push has to be done, that you have to treat Reddit like just as importantly as uh, Twitter or uh, LinkedIn for the business, right?
So let's pull on that thread for a
Mhm.
minute. You mentioned helping people get into Reddit, right? What are you looking to do there? What are some of the things that you're telling people to do? Like, is there maybe like an 80-20 sort of rule of like, those are the things you do, those are the things you don't do. Here, there are three concepts, and this is like, yeah, like it's 80% of it. What is your process of helping people get
So I
successful
helped
in
this
it?
with my team at ImageKit as well, where I set up accounts for everyone. I said, don't worry about alts, second accounts, all that. Um, we had a few work-related subreddits that they were subscribed to, but I also gave them an equal number of non-work-related stuff. So someone who's interested in soccer is like get on r/soccer. Someone else is interested in like hiking, then get on r/hiking. And I was like, for the first 3-4 weeks, I just want you to be getting on Reddit, spend 30 to 40 minutes a day. All phones now have app tracking, so just track that and make sure that you're spending that much time, and try and get to like a few hundred comment karma in the first month, and get to like 1,000 karma in the second month. Yes, you will get banned. You may get temporary banned. You may get perma banned, but that's fine because it's a new account. Uh, it's the stakes are low. Uh, if you've completely gone haywire and got banned everywhere, fine, make a new account. But otherwise, just take it in your stride and just do that for the first couple of months, or just a month even, right? And if they're able to do that regularly, and that's the same. Like I don't use Twitter at all, so if I were to start uh, posting and evangelizing about Reo.dev on Twitter, I would do the same thing. I just spend 2 months on Twitter before I try to do anything or say anything about Reo.dev. I just learn how the platform works and what's the cadence, how often should I be on it, what should I do? Should I spend more time reading tweets? How do I organize my list? I would just get into all that on Twitter. I'd ask someone to do the same thing on Reddit. And the success metric for me in the first month is just how much comment karma have you got. I don't care where it's from. Maybe you got 1,000 comment karma, 950 was on r/hockey. I don't care. But that tells me that you built the muscle around being on Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll say, okay, now you've gotten it. The next thing for you is getting, say, 50, 75 comments over the next month, and 75 comments is like 2 comments a day, is not a lot, right? Over a course of a month on your core work subreddits. So get 75 comments across r/machine learning, r/DevOps, and r/database admin. Suppose if you're a database related product, right, or an ML product. And doesn't matter how much karma you got, but you got in about 60, 75, 100 comments over a month. Then you've also got the muscle. You've not got permaband. You've learned the rules. You've shown up a bunch of times. Now I'll say, okay, you got it. Then the thing to do is also start doing active research around posts. And that's where this new tool of reddit.com/answers is fantastic, because you can search and query and find threads with natural language, which has been pretty awesome for me. I'm using it almost 3 times a week just to do research. And
I saw a post on it from you. I haven't used it yet. So it's
Yeah.
Reddit answers, right? Like it's
Correct.
r/answers. Wait, so that's a
It's
subreddit. but is it-
reddit.com/answers. It's a new tool from
Oh
Reddit
yeah, it's in
itself.
beta.
So-
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Uh-huh.
So you could ask something like, what are the latest conversations on CockroachDB, for example, right? And it actually gives you a compilation of all the conversations happening. And you find those, and then you start participating in those conversations. If it makes sense, put in a tool, put in a mention about your product, and
So
go
I'm just
from
pulling
there,
it
right?
up so that everyone
Yeah.
can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So let's
yeah,
ask
so
it
maybe,
something
maybe,
like,
maybe let's put something about signal-based sales.
yeah.
So that would be what Reo is doing. Nice. Okay, they're going more. Obviously it's like heavy on B2B. It's just the classic B2B tools, and B2B signals. But yeah, maybe let's go for something like, yeah, let's see the image APIs, right? If that was the
Yeah,
ImageKit, sort of
correct.
situation.
Or image compression APIs.
So let's go for that. Oh wait, come back. Let's do that. Because there are other tools. I used Gummy Search, but I like that it's, whatever is natively in the platform is always going to be better, so.
Correct, yeah. But it tells you where to start. What I like here is it tells you which community. So r/webdev, r/next.js, r/golang. So if I'm starting out with ImageKit, this tells me immediately where do I focus my search. And you know this, there are thousands of subreddits. So
Yeah,
which are the ones where there's most conversation? And I would say, okay, prioritize these,
that's so
do as
good.
much as I can, and go from there.
Wow, that's a great one. I
Yeah.
have to. Yeah, I'm
And
gonna
what it also
spend
tells
some more
you
time on
is,
it.
as a business, you're typically looking at your top 2, 3 big competitors, right? Like ImageKit, we were looking at, say, Cloudflare, we're looking at Bunny CDN, looking at Cloudnary as the big players with a lot of revenue. But then you go on Reddit and you'll find all these other players who are also there. And they may be looking at, they may have edge use cases, they may be a low cost, they may be really good in particular regions. And then you realize, okay, these are interesting players as well. And then what that does then is it unlocks new use cases, new opportunities, new competitive opportunities. And you realize something like maybe, what is the one I saw that, like tiny PNGs getting used a lot for gaming, to compress static images in gaming. And like, okay, maybe gaming is a good use case for us to push on, and we don't have to just keep on pushing on e-commerce and video streaming, which are the 2 big use cases for media compression. But maybe gaming is a big one too. And then Reddit becomes a great research place. And also opportunistically, you get involved in the conversations as well. Just one more thing about like getting involved in those conversations where you're talking about your business. I think it's very important to have full disclosure. I see this very often where brands are putting in brand advocacy or product advocacy where they're trying to pitch their business, but they're trying to make it look like it's not. That blows back in your face because people can make out it's a promotional post very fast. So yeah, say I'm promoting my brand, I'm the dev for this, or I'm the product manager for this. Please try it out if you want. I am openly pitching it here since it suits the use case. I'm open for questions as well. Like, be honest about it, and that's actually received a lot more favorably versus trying to pretend to not be part of the business and doing it as a third person.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share an example maybe of that. I actually pulled up something, and I want to also go to the examples that you shared, because you shared a bunch of examples. We're going to go to that in a minute. But I remember this one. It's not on Reddit, but it's a similar thing. That one was actually on Stack Overflow, which for me at least it was harder even, to get success, on Stack Overflow. But I don't
Yeah,
know. Like it also depends, because sometimes it's like, machine learning once is one thing, and the Devi, like the classic DevTool problems is another. But like this one here, it's that format of, somebody's talking about a particular problem. You say how to solve it. You say that one option is to also use a service like mine and be
yeah,
explicit. If you were to
correct.
like try to do it in a way where you said, so they say, you could use software like mine. If you tried and just pitched it together with everything, somebody will know, will realize that this is
Yep,
you, and they will, just for the, sort of, yeah, just because that's what you do. I guess like you would
correct.
just like downvote them to oblivion. But if you're open about it, it's, yeah, like we're all building, that's fine. If
Absolutely, yeah,
you're actually providing value, that's good. And that's sort of like the format I saw being successful. And first you try to answer how to solve something, then you can also use the product like mine, what it does, and here is how to try it, and you can actually run it, or use it, or whatever, right? And it's sort of that flow. That's one of the things that I saw. I
yeah,
wonder, what are some other formats that perhaps you saw, Aditya, and and,
yeah.
and how you, in that post you mentioned about gently advocating for the product, or gently evangelizing product over time, trying to layer that in. If you could share maybe some tips on doing that.
Yeah. So let me just zoom way in on this. So like this is a good one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a nice way to present it. Like someone is pitching very aggressively. They have said at the end that I don't have anything to do with the dev, just like the site. But even if they were the dev, this is a great way to pitch it. That I use typing mind. It's way better. It's very detailed. It's telling a lot of stuff on what you can do and what you can't do, right? So if I am doing an evaluation of a tool to use the OpenAI API with, if I want a front end for that, this is a great, very helpful post. Now, if it said I am the dev, that's fine. I am still, the merits of the post are great and it helps. But then if I look at something like this, this one, uh, let me scroll this up.
Mm-hmm. Or you can pull it up. I think there's a
Yeah,
link to that you shared, I
right.
think, as
Like
well.
Fathom.ai versus Fireflies. I remember screenshotting this a while ago. This looks very, and it's been called out as a marketing post because you can see the degree of helpfulness. Two things. One is the amount of helpfulness this has is nowhere close to the other one I showed. And
Mm-hmm.
tonality also, it sounds like a pitch, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
put them side by side, you can make out how obvious that this is a pitch. Whereas
Yeah.
this is just literally a conversation. This is just a conversation.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, there are like
open-endedly
links
written.
to, links to image, to screenshots, so that you can see stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just like, one thing I'd add is, it is just considerably harder, or sometimes impossible, for a marketer to write a post like this, just being honest, right? Because you don't have that first-hand experience with solving that particular use case, right? so
Yeah.
so the depth is not there. You have your
Correct.
product marketing materials, battle cards, everything,
Yeah.
and there is stuff you can do with this that is
Mhm.
helpful and valuable.
Yeah.
But this often ends on Reddit. Like it's often you need one layer deeper to go into those super particular use cases, and that's why the dev roles exist, and that's why they
Yeah.
should be able to write a post, post like this, versus
Yeah.
the one promotion one
Yeah.
that you
I
saw
think what
up there.
product marketers should do is build out all the content, like have situation handling content for everything. Like if I was a product manager for Typing Mind, I would have all this content ready somewhere, but not as
Mm-hmm.
a templated post, just have guidelines. So it could be an intern or even the CEO who's writing on this, but even they don't want to be racking their mind at that time trying to remember all the stuff on why typing mind is better than the alternatives. So you have all that reference material ready and let them write it themselves. And I think that's the push that has to happen from dev marketers, that whoever's doing this, it may be a marketing team, it may be an enthusiastic dev from your engineering team, they have to write the content themselves at that time. You can't pre-prep it, because if you do that, then you will get into this kind of, like, this is also terribly obvious promotional post, right? And you can make, like you said, bullet
And the
points, bold,
balding
bolding.
is just
Yeah,
yeah
no
yeah
one, no one writes like that on Reddit, right? So this is clearly a post that's been written earlier and then just pasted in here. But
yeah
if you have the same content, that it's an all-in-one system, it's for service-based businesses, it's a full CRM point. If you have all these points and then make people do the hard work of writing it out themselves, it will automatically come out more natural like this, right?
yeah,
And
and that's such a good point. I think like the examples plus guidelines is a good mix.
yeah,
I think now with ChatGPT projects and stuff like the generally project stuff, like if you really want to play it, I had it, I actually managed to do a fairly good first drafts by going, really long history of posts of a particular founder and long history and a lot of context, long history of posts and a first-hand
yeah,
transcription of of a discussion they had, and I created a list of posts that like they were they're still a draft that the founder should tweak, but they are not super far, at
yeah,
least in a formatic way, because like obviously the
correct,
depth and understanding of the concepts I don't like that, it could have been messed up. But I think now there's some opportunities to do it, like
yes,
really adjust it to the medium. But I would still, whatever you do, I would still leave it at a draft level where the founder, the poster has to make it their own. And especially if they spend time
correct,
in Reddit,
yeah,
they will know that this is not them. This is not how they would write it. It just doesn't feel right. And lean on that doesn't feel right. But but first, build that feel, as Aditya mentioned, spend time there first,
yeah.
to know what it feels
Yeah.
like.
This is a great post. If you look at this, is from MindMac. I screenshotted this earlier as well. This is, I think, a
Mm-hmm.
perfect post. If you're pitching your product, this is, I don't think it gets better than this, right? And you can see from the comments as well that everyone's taken this positively. This person is pitching the product. It's called MindMac. It's a GPT client on Mac. And he's openly said, I'm the developer behind MindMac. Let me know. Now, this could just as easily be, I'm the developer at CockroachDB
Yeah,
or
100%.
at Kraken D, right? It could be a 50,
Yeah,
100 million ARR business. It doesn't have to be an indie developer. But
yeah,
you can see the difference between this and this one. This is so obvious that it's
yeah,
been, and this is the
yeah.
worst part, right? Book a free walkthrough. Like, please don't CTA your Reddit posts. Like, that's not the point. Yeah. Or
Oh,
at
and it's
least like
free.
use
Wow.
not LinkedIn language.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And by the way, I think like when in this good example that you had, if you could scroll down for a
Yeah.
second, right? I think in this particular case, I would say that it's even better that you're a developer behind MindMap, because I can now ask you questions,
Yep.
about maybe particular implementations, and that makes it, it makes sense for me to be involved in that discussion. Whereas, obviously, if you're you weren't, then I can ask you about more stuff about the experience and stuff. But I think it just like, it comes off very natural,
Mm-hmm.
and it's inviting, and it's a block of text, by the way, but it's fine. It's like it it is still readable, very readable. If it
Right.
was way longer, then
Absolutely. Yeah.
probably you would just
Yeah.
do it
And there's a
like,
human angle, right? Like the dot, 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 like no chat GPT or no marketing team is going to allow dot, dot, dot if they have a chance, but this person's just written it. And even if you're not the dev, the way we did it when I did that payment processing one is like I was writing it. I was a marketing advisor for them. And I said, I'm leading the launch and we have the devs available if you have any questions. And I actually tagged the devs in that same post. And yeah, so that's a great way to do this. So if this person had said, I'm the product manager behind MindMac, let me know if you need any assistance or if you have any technical questions, I can reach out or get my dev team to
get the
answer it and
devs.
tag them here.
Hmm.
That's as genuine and as honest as it gets, and no one's going to have
Yeah.
to worry about that as
I
well.
think that part of like genuine, authentic, and transparent would be the keyword I think about.
Yeah.
Where is devs always appreciate transparency.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
it's fine if you're pitching if you don't pretend you're not pitching. Like
Absolutely. Right.
it's because then I'm gonna catch you, and I'm not gonna feel that it's genuine, and it's gonna be harder for me to trust you, right? But if
Correct. Yeah.
unless you're like, like you can if you're like extremely good at it, maybe you can pull it off, like. But I think Yeah, it's just so much easier to just be transparent
Correct.
and genuinely helpful. If you think this is genuinely helpful, that's great. One rule of thumb I have for some of those things where deciding whether you should be posting is like, when I speak to DevRels is like, so imagine you're in that subreddit and you're no longer working for this company, right? But you know everything about the use cases, everything about everything, right? Will you still pitch it, or would you still pitch it? Like, if the answer is yes, then obviously you should be pitching your product, and it obviously makes sense,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
But there's going to be a grain lines of, yeah, like you want to promote because you want the company to be successful. Maybe it's like not exactly the best use case, but I think if you stay close to the vest and go for, if condition on, I'm not even working at this company, would this be valuable?
Mhm.
Yeah, you post, and there should be many situations when that is true, because otherwise, why does your company even exist? If that's not the case,
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
talk to your founders, because maybe there's some product work that needs to be done.
Correct. The flip side of that is don't have quotas or targets for how many comments or how many upvotes or how many links that you need to put on Reddit, because it's going to be very situation specific, right? If you're selling a CRM, you'll get maybe a lot more opportunity to plug in your CRM or talk about your CRM versus something like a very specific dev tool like ImageKit. We won't get that many opportunities. So then you have to be a lot more careful, and you can't have a top down target saying that we need to get 45 comments a week on Reddit, because that will get you banned. You will get into criticized and downvoted. And then, okay, you take the targets for 2 months, but after that, your accounts are banned and then you have to start again. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely
No, no,
like
no, no.
not allow targets for that. Targets in the beginning till people get comfortable on Reddit, just so that I make sure that they
Get the
build up
reps
their,
in.
get the reps in, build up the muscle, go to the gym for the first couple of months. But once they've got comfortable, I'm like, now it's yours, right? Like, you're doing advocacy on an open forum. Do it to the best you can, pull in help where you can. You would be the Reddit expert. So get in help from a senior dev, get in help from the CTO, but also help them kind of craft and do the Redditing bit of it correct. So that's kind of the key KRAs I put on someone
So,
handling
so
Reddit.
just to maybe pull that thread a little bit and understand. So the way you set it up was not the not pushing for the CTO to actually post, but but basically coupling the um, marketer who is working on Reddit with the subject matter experts, and they work
Yeah.
together to do
Yes.
it. Is that the case? Could you speak more about that setup and upsides downsides of this?
So ideally, you should have one marketeer or someone or DevRel, someone like that, and one technically like complete person who can answer any question in any conversation that comes up. Ideally, both should be somewhat active on Reddit, but actually actively monitoring it, finding those opportunities to converse should fall on the marketing or DevRel person, and then the other person comes in on a consultative basis to help, right? The second person has to be available like quickly, because it can't be like, okay, I found an interesting thread at 6 p.m. No, I can't wait till 2 p.m. the next day for the dev to be free, because conversations move very fast. There's no point coming in 2 days later on a Reddit thread. Same like Twitter, right? Like if the activity is now, like 2 days later, the opportunity is gone. Uh, but so that second person who's coming in to consultatively help on the technical aspects of the post, they should also get Reddit to a certain degree, so that it just makes that iteration and getting that content out there faster. And that's where what I was saying, right? Having those kind of the toolkit from marketing on what to say, how to compare your product versus competitors, uh, how to kind of address common questions, um, stuff like that. Like at ImageKit, we would have a lot of questions around what kind of media formats can you handle. Can you handle PNG? Can you handle MP4? If you're compressing media, can you handle exotic media? How good is your latency in different parts of the world, right? I'm a Brazilian business. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
can you deliver media with low latency in my region, or are you US specific? So all those kind of questions, how to handle them, have those toolkit and bullet points ready, and then you can put them together in natural Reddit language on the spot.
So you had that in sort of like a Google Doc or a Notion page, something like that, or like
Yeah,
set of
absolutely.
Notion pages, like
We used
something
to
like
have a
that.
Google Doc, Notion page. for ImageKit, it was a lot more on Stack Overflow and Twitter versus Reddit, because what we realized is like the most opportune places for our product was when someone was actually building and they were stuck on one particular piece of their entire problem, right? And they may not even be using ImageKit, they may be using a competitor. And devs for a very point problem will typically go to Stack Overflow or Twitter to get
Yeah.
that point problem solved. Like, okay, this API call is not working, or this particular function call is not working. How do I get this fixed? Those kind of questions will go to Stack Overflow or Twitter. Should I use this tool or that tool, or how should I think of building this out? Is more of a Reddit uh, kind of content, right? So we would have that, we would put those together, but Stack Overflow is probably even more technical and aggressive about banning than even Reddit is. So we used to leave it to the founders and the CTOs to do it. All our three founders were devs, in fact. So from marketing team, we would do monitoring. We would find the threads. We would put some broad points together. So we take that cognitive load off the founders in terms of what to say, but we would leave it to them to post. And very often they would veto and say, "No, I don't want to post on this." Or I don't see the need. Let them figure
So
it
it'll
out.
be a coupling of monitoring the threads, which today there are good tools for that.
Absolutely.
They
Now
were
there's
good,
even Reddit
like
MCP servers, right, which give you real-time feeds of Reddit.
yeah, or tools on top of, like I know, Sift and Octaline, so those are
Correct.
good choices. They're
Yeah.
for very specific. There's that
Yeah.
F5 bot, but
Reo.dev too. We also do community
Reo also
monitoring.
does right.
Yeah, we do community monitoring in Reddit as well. So
Yeah, yeah. So I think like a lot of those tools now, they would be connected to Slack, so it would send that info to Slack. So I wonder now, in this world of those awesome tools that we now have, including Rel, when you send that information to Slack, what's the role of the marketer? Because my default would be, well, let's just get the folks who would be answering those questions in that Slack and set up some sort of like a cadence and understanding of like what happens when those things happen in those threads. What additional info, what additional value would you add as a marketer to make this
So
successful?
most of these tools are going to help you track mostly on keywords, right? So like if I'm at ImageKit, it'll track on Cloudinary, or it'll track on CDNs. If I'm at Rio, it'll track against our competition or like intent signals or developer marketing. But for the thread, there's also context, right? So it may be like for developer marketing for Rio, it may be a thread on what are great developer marketeers that you know, or I'm trying to hire my first DevRel. What should I look at? Those will get flagged on a keyword basis on your monitoring tools, but they have absolutely nothing to do with intent signals. That's not an
Yeah,
opportunity for me to
yeah.
talk about the product. It's an opportunity for me to talk in general, but not the product. And even if it is, let's say it's looking at I need to track GitHub signals or GitHub forks, that's a perfect opportunity for me to talk about Rio on Reddit. But what's the exact space of the conversation? Who should I reply to? Where do I get in? What should I say? Is still that kind of strategizing needs to be done. There
By
needs to be a
marketer.
human in the loop there, right? All it's doing is surfacing like 10 different threads, and then you're like, okay, out of these 10 threads, 6 have flagged on the right keyword but the wrong topic. 4 are worth talking about. On these 4, I'll just talk in general about the space. These 2 I can actually make a product pitch, and this one I actually need to set the record straight because someone's like
Yeah,
saying something very wrong about our space, right? And you do that first. If you can handle that yourself as a marketer with all the toolkit that you have on the product, great. Just go for it, right? And also, the thing with Reddit is while it is unforgiving for promotional posts and stupid comments, uh, because it's an ongoing conversation, if you say something that's slightly off, someone corrects you, that's fine. You go with the flow and you can always get yourself corrected. And if someone make a statement saying that, okay, uh, ImageKit is a great product for the APAC region, and someone says, "No, I use ImageKit and I had terrible latency." Okay, you can then get into a conversation, get your CTO on board, then and say, "Okay, I need more help here. This is escalating beyond my ability to uh, converse, so I need more help on this," and then get it sorted out. But I would always say, like, go for it, and if you have a point of view, make it once you've got that Reddit muscle built out.
yeah. No. I'm with, like, I think it's like always, yeah. Like if you see that there is a valuable angle to add it. If you
Correct.
think you need someone more technical to answer it, add that, tag them, manage that setup, tools or not. And then, yeah, always be valuable, right? Like always, um, so that'll be the part default to commenting, or like commenting should be the main thing
Yeah.
you focus on. Definitely spend time in there to learn how those things look like, be in there. I mean, I think actually, to your point with like the answers now, but generally that has always been a great source of product insights, market insights, problem insights. So I think there's a lot of value both for marketers and founders to be there anyway, and sort of like see
Yes.
what people are talking about. Because even if you are extremely embedded in all the customer conversations that you already have, which is not true as well anyway, but even if that was true, then you're still looking at a pocket of market that self-qualified to reaching out to you for some reason, and that's not the entire market. And
Yeah.
yes, you should focus on it because there must be reasons, and they are coming, they want it, they use it, they want to pay for it. That's great. So there is obviously something that you should understand about them. But then there's the market is larger, obviously larger than Reddit as well, because you're
Yeah.
gonna get certain folks there, certain type of people there, or Hacker News, right? Like in some place, I actually think like Hacker News, you're gonna get more folks who are those type of like innovator people there, because they're
Mhm.
extremely heavily there, seeing what's new, what's happening, tinkering with those tools. Reddit seems to be a bit more on the pragmatic side from my perspective, because people do
Yeah.
other things there too. I'd say hackering is not, but like, yeah, like there are some differences, but generally, um, yeah, generally, I think that's the vibe. But you get insights of from different pockets of the market, which is great. To understand what else should you be building, how
Absolutely. Yeah.
important is this problem? Because sometimes you think you see problems with companies not prioritizing your particular problem or product, and the reason is because it's not the top three priority, and it always gets pushed to the next quarter. So it's
Correct.
just
Yeah.
like it's as simple as that. Like if
Yeah.
everyone you're talking to, they have three bigger problems to solve, then even if they believe you're the you have a great product, everything is great, like I liked it, but it's not the most important thing now. Like, so
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
then it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's valuable in that sense.
Correct.
So as we're getting closer towards the end of this conversation, I would really like to understand, and sort of maybe reiterate some of the points that we mentioned, but see if there are any things, if you were to set it up. Let's say we're setting this up at a DevTool startup. um, we want to do both the sort of social listening stuff and being there and commenting, but also things around posting and build that strategy over time. um, do you think we could maybe figure out the process? What is the process that makes sense to set up here? And we already have a few steps there, right? We talked about this 90 days, or 60 days of being there, looking through everything, then starting posting, building that muscle. Let's say yes, we are 60 days in. We already posted 50 posts in work related stuff.
Yeah.
How do we build from here? What do we do now? How do we grow this? What are some of the things that you would be, setting up there and working on?
So I would do two things, right? I would definitely, whoever from the marketing team is kind of leading the charge of monitoring the posts, posting actively. I'd also strongly encourage, especially all the product marketers on the team, to be reading, like you said, Reddit and Hacker News and Stack Overflow. One is for insights, but also you pick up a lot of your audience's language. Like that's something I'm also learning at Rio, is how do I talk with the language of a GTM team, right? I'm learning to words like burnt down lists and outbound and prospecting, and just learning to speak in the language. And with dev tools, that's 10x more important, because if you're able to use the language and the wording and the style that they're talking, so much the better, right? That is one thing that I would do for sure. I would set up the social media listening tooling, like you said. At Rio, I just do it with Rio itself. And I'd also, I'm assuming we set up one marketer and say one developer who's like a subject matter expert to help out. when it goes. The other thing is I would do like developer conversations open house every say 2 weeks or every month, depending on what's the volume of conversations happening.
Open
Where
house? What do you mean? What's
so
that?
like whoever's the marketeer who's looking at Reddit and Hacker News, I would ask them to show all the content that they've looked at, all the posts that they've made, the learnings from it, what went bad, this one got downvoted to oblivion, this one went viral, we said this and we got this pushback. Do that for all the stakeholders in the org, the entire marketing, product, and dev team for sure. Maybe even customer success, because there's also a lot of learning for them. What this will do two things. One, it will bring Reddit and Hacker News and all this developer community listening and posting into a higher position within the org and a higher level of priority is not just one of the 422 things that marketing teams have to do, right? So it helps with that. And it also surfaces those insights to the larger team, because as a marketeer and the developer, we may see a conversation, we may see some insights, but then the CTO looks at that conversation like, oh, this is interesting. Or the CPO looks at it and like, oh, this has implications for our product roadmap, right? So it's also important to get that going there. The second thing is because if you are doing that open house every uh, 2 weeks or every month, like if it's a very active product, which is there's a lot of conversation, like say Lovable, for example, right? It's the flavor of the month, then yeah, you could probably do it every week even. But if it's something that's more of an enterprise tool, then you need a month for sufficient conversations to build up. It also gives the team handling Reddit an incentive to do this on a daily cadence. What you don't want to do is like not look at Reddit for a week and then, okay, let me look at all my backlog posts on Reddit which have been pushed to Slack and then try and comment as fast as I can on all of them, which doesn't work. You have to do this on a build that
Yeah.
daily monitoring muscle. So
Yeah.
if
I
you're
think
showing that to
that
everyone, then it keeps you honest.
yeah, 100%. I think it's like one is like it keeps you honest. It keeps you, it adds this additional push to do it
Yeah,
daily. And I think especially with everything that is, community based, social listening based, or whatever, like those things where it is current, right? You
yeah,
cannot come, like, I cannot stress this enough. And you said it a few times, where like you cannot come 2 days later to a
correct.
flagged conversation. It just doesn't, like, you can do it, because I saw that happen where you come there 2 days later and you post a post that is already, there are other posts that are already, everything is like 15, 20, 30 upvotes or whatever, and you're posting 4 days later, and you to claim that you posted in there, like we posted in that, but it could have been so much better had you done it, an hour
Exactly.
in. And you
Yeah,
could have, because like it was a perfect post to post for us, right? So I think, yeah, like that part is important. But I think, yeah, like I really like this idea of open house, and I think a lot of other initiatives like that, like there's this idea of doing voice of customer recording on every all hands, just show some of those things so that it's like a real feedback coming from the market. One, it is educating everyone on what you see, aligning everyone on, this is the reality that we see. I understand that you're sitting in the product and looking, and building those things based on, yeah, like the feature request and everything. It's like, yeah, like this is what you see, but this is what we see additionally to that,
yeah,
and this could help you. And but the worst case scenario, you just understand that those are the conversations that we see happen. And I think it actually gets marketing to the table as well. Like it's no longer the, hey, go promote, and then we're gonna give you another feature, go promote, we're gonna give you another feature, go promote. But it's
yeah,
more of we work together, because we spend more time with non-users, with the audience, with people who are not really haven't really heard about us. So those are the things we see. How do we use that to inform us building a better product? And by the way, actually, no, like I just listened to this conversation yesterday, I think, with the founder of Digger, that dev on scaling dev tools.
yeah,
And he said that, even though they're raising now, and they have more room to hire, they're not hiring any marketers. They want to go three founders. They want to be in there, talking to people, being super close in those loops. And I think that does make sense too. Not everyone can afford it. Not every founder is like that. Not every, like, so obviously, as you scale, this changes too, right? Because the surface is just obviously too large to cover, etc. But it just goes to show that some of those founders, they want to be the marketers, because the marketing is actually a very strategic and important function of getting the market signal, so that later you can, give the product to people and talk about the product in their language, and prioritizing the pains that they have, etc., and just like makes it very real, right? Because otherwise, if you just go, hey, this is the product, this is what it does, marketing figure out what are the problems, what are the solutions, what is the benefits, you figure it out, because we built this feature, you figure it out, then it's detached, right? And sometimes
Absolutely.
it is like this, but it shouldn't be. I think the activity like the open house that you mentioned, it makes it so much more closed loop, discussion with product, with other stakeholders in the org.
Correct.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Any other ideas on the setup?
So
And
one thing I would do is also look at what kind of metrics, like if you're using the open house as like your anchor point for the way you report and build the cadence, from a reporting, I'd look at how many posts did we even flag, uh, worth looking at and researching, how many threads rather, how many posts did we actually make, what was our kind of median upvotes, and big one for me is how many replies did we get,
mm-hmm.
right? Because I don't want to put a quota on people in terms of how many posts or how many upvotes, but that is something that I would want to track just from making sure that there's that daily discipline or that every 3 days discipline of getting on Reddit. But if we are able to, as a team, over say 10 open houses over 20 weeks, if we're getting a compoundingly more replies and conversations happening on down the line from our post, whatever the post may be. Maybe we're just talking about the space and we're not even pitching a product. It shows that, okay, we're getting better and better and better at Reddit, and that way it will compound. The second thing that I would look to do, especially if I'm a leadership team, like the head of marketing or a founder, is like, because Reddit, like a lot of social media, is a degree of a casino in the sense that you do 99 posts and you just get like one upvote each, but then one post goes crazy viral. In fact, that payments post, I'll send it to you after that, and because like the six of us were sitting in a room and commenting nonstop back and forth on that thread, we realized that this one person is coming back with more and more questions on different aspects of it, and we're like, who's this guy who's asking like so many questions right off the bat? We all looked at his profile on Reddit. He had his Twitter. We opened it and we realized he's a payments influencer. Like he writes on the space, and he has like several tens of thousands of followers on Twitter. We just took a bet and DM'd him on Twitter and said, "Hey, listen, we've been talking on Reddit. Um, we're giving you access to the product. We made an account for you if you want to try it out. Would love your point of view, and if we can also bring the same conversation to Twitter, it'll be great because we have a lot of stakeholders here." And yeah, he cooperated, and we got a conversation going there. So that's the kind of like
Nice.
tentpole opportunities that may stick out from there. For all you know, you're pitching your small 1 million ARR product, and suddenly someone replies and like, "I'm the CTO at Nike," or something like that, and they're like, "Can you tell me more about this product?" And that can happen on Reddit, and you
Yeah,
need to get in
100%.
on that and do that. Or maybe they don't even say that. You realize someone's asking a lot of questions, and they're asking very interesting CTO kind of questions. They are not asking operational implementation questions, and you look at it and realize, okay, this person is
Yeah.
in real life someone important, and you can figure out all that right now, right? Especially with tools like Reo, where put a Reddit ID together with a GitHub ID with LinkedIn ID and things like that. So then you figure out,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is a real enterprise grade prospect that we should engage with in a larger capacity. And
Mm-hmm.
by just serendipity, you met them on Reddit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No. I
that's
think
also
that's
another
that's
thing that
that's
comes out of this showing your work, like do a show and tell with the entire org, because then there are things that maybe a CTO or a CPO in your org, your company will pick up, which like as a marketer or a mid-level dev, and because you're also transactionally, you're thinking about, okay, what do I say in this comment? You're not seeing focusing on the larger picture, which like someone else will be able to see.
Yeah. No, but I think that's that there's three good points here that I really like. So one is we have in-channel metric for optimization of the channel being the high quality replies, or just count the replies, but you could
Yeah.
do high quality replies as well. I really like that. I think this is like a great proxy for those posts are really good. Like if you're getting a thoughtful reply from someone who's obviously knowledgeable about this, then it must have hit the core. It must have struck the core. It must have been something that was actually valuable enough for me to spend my time and comment thoughtfully, right? So I think this is like a great one. Whereas the upvotes and all of those things are just like a bit more shallow, and
Yeah,
there could be
that's
different
just to make
reasons
sure
why it
that
happens.
people are doing the work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But
But
I
like,
think it's like a good direction to like, try and think about versus going straight for the lagging metrics, right? Like sometimes people want to, like so what's the business impact? Well, and there should be over time the business impact of a lagging metric in pipeline or qualified signups, activated signups. How,
yeah,
like, yes, for sure. But as I'm optimizing and building this channel, I need a quicker metric that optimizes the activity I'm doing, and the activity is commenting or posting. And a really good proxy signal is high quality comment from someone who knows their stuff.
absolutely right. And like if you look at, or say, three time periods, let's say over a 3 month period, let's say the Reddit team has done 10 posts, 11 posts, 10 posts. But in the first period on 10 posts, they got an like say total of 3 replies. The next time they got 4 replies. Then the third period, they got 7 replies. Okay, that tells me that over time, they're getting better and better at getting properly stuck into the conversations. The quality of the post and the timing and where in the thread they're doing that is getting better. So that's going to start compounding and moving in the right direction. The way to kind of look at Reddit from a business angle is that it's almost think of Reddit advocacy and Hacker News and all this almost like TV advertising in the sense that it creates a halo effect around your brand. So then tomorrow you're doing a hackathon, or you're pushing a lot of money into paid ads, or you're doing a big newsletter buy at CodePen. Do a newsletter buy in CodePen in January, and then you do it, say, next January. You should, for all else being equal, see more impact out of that measurable tactic because you've got that supporting advocacy happening on other channels as well. Because someone sees your product through the CodePen newsletter, they've never heard of you. They're going to go and research you, especially if they're a dev. They're going to go deep before they actually start using you. And if your advocacy is there, then the numbers should show in your
Yeah,
signups and your revenue metrics as well.
yeah,
Just like
yeah.
before a TV campaign and after a TV campaign, your sales, indirect sales are going to go up. So it's pretty much the same thing
Mm-hmm.
over here. It's just
Yeah.
that because it's not a big blast like TV, it takes more time to compound, but that's how I think of measuring it.
True. No, but I also think like those things do, if you do the mix of like the classic attribution or self-reported attribution, they will come up. You'll see that there are
Oh,
signals
yes,
there.
absolutely.
People will mention them. But to your point, yeah, like I'm with you. And there's those effects of combining those different things happening at the same time. If I just see a Reddit comment on a tool, I may take a look or may not. But if at the same time I see someone talking on Twitter about it, and I see a Hacker News show on it, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm gonna check even if I'm not in the market. Like, everyone's talking
correct.
about it. I better see what's happening, right? So I think there are those effects where where you want to see more of this happening. And if you're consistent on Reddit, and I treat Reddit as a place where I can ask for peer feedback or understanding from other people in the field, what are they doing. There are not many places like Reddit, so you will go, like, if that's one of the things that you use for your evaluations, you will be there. So like if I'm consistent there, you will see me, and if if you see me, my comments, and if I consistently add something interesting, valuable, or I'm just answering questions as they're being asked versus just pitching the product, and then I may engage, right? So and to your point, like, yeah, like you, at least I will see it, and the next time some other trigger happens, maybe some other channel, other promotion, other thing I'm building, I will be, yeah, more interested to try it. So those things compound, so it's hard to see that,
Yeah.
to yeah.
On that point about self-reported attribution, I don't see a lot of dev tool or anyone for that matter do this, but I think dev tools definitely should be doing self-reported attribution with the frontline developer signing up for the product and using the product. We are very often do it with the buyer. We'll do self-reported attribution with the CTO or the lead dev who's going to give us money, but what about the dev who's actually using the product? and they are probably the ones who found us through Reddit. And Reddit's going to have disproportionate representation there. LinkedIn and events will have disproportionate representation with the economic buyer because they probably heard it there. But who's solving the problem? Where did they hear about it? Why did they sign up for your product?
Yeah.
If we start doing a lot of self-reported attribution there, we'll suddenly start seeing Reddit and Hacker News show up in those channels.
Yeah, 100% with you. Yeah, and I think sometimes it's like that, especially in the buyer persona, oftentimes the buyer heard it from the team. Like you're gonna see how like the team brought it, so you're gonna see so the team brought it, so it's word of mouth. Well, but you could have double clicked on this word of mouth. Word of mouth doesn't start from nowhere. You know, like it's from people talking about it, and where do people talk about it? Like obviously, you know, one of the big places is going to be one of these, so you see that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, like I think there are more you know, companies doing the self-report. I think I saw somewhere that PostHog just moved, you know, explicitly to it. I think Sentry moved to it too, as well.
We do
I mean,
self-reported,
yeah. I mean, I think it's like just a powerful tactic, and yeah, it's like like you're not gonna get everyone to type something reasonable in there, and in some, you know, some communities are gonna get less of it, but doesn't matter as long as you get a decent percentage. And I don't think I saw some, you know, anywhere when it's like less than 30% of answers being actually something reasonable. So then
if you get a big enough
helps.
sample size over like a few hundred self-reported attribution, then some patterns will start to pop up.
Exactly.
And then you realize,
100%.
okay, there's actually a lot of stuff happening on Slack, and then you have to figure out which those communities are.
Which Slack, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. On like a set of 10, you'll not realize anything. But then if you have a set of 500, then something will show up. So I think,
Agreed.
I think a lot of marketers get demoralized because they do it and then the first 10 don't make any sense. And they're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing self-reported attribution when they're all nonsense? But I'm like, no, wait, get 500 before you make any kind of judgment on this.
Agreed. Yeah. So with you on it. And I've never seen the numbers actually drop, you know, when it comes to like activated signups when you have that question, you know, because like sometimes that's a common thing. People always say, hey, it's another field. First I push back. So do we need to ask for first name, last name? You know, can we drop that? But anyway, okay. I wonder if there are anything that we didn't talk about when it comes to Reddit or otherwise that you'd like to leave our listeners with. We have a few more minutes, and I know you know a ton about dev marketing, so super curious if there's anything you'd like to share.
I think we've not talked about Reddit advertising. I've not done much of this myself hands-on. We didn't do it at ImageKit. We did it at DevCloud, my very first gig. I think and you publish, I think, the best content on this in terms of what's the right creative, how to approach the messaging around Reddit, stuff like that. So not much to add there. I think I just add a point saying that you have to look at Reddit as a very broad top of funnel broadcast channel for media buying if you're doing advertising. So getting your ads in front of the large subreddits like say r/programming or r/DevOps will get you more impressions, get you more traction versus say trying to get a lot of frequency on a more niche subreddit. The reason being is that someone reading Reddit and seeing your ad probably don't have a need for that solution right now. So you want to land that, you have to look at it as a brand recall and a brand impression piece rather than a direct conversion now. Because if someone, especially a developer, they have a problem they're looking to solve for it, they're going to be either posting and asking that question, which is where our entire advocacy piece that we talked about matters, or they're going on Google and searching for that, right? Then your entire SEO and paid ads angle comes up. But Reddit ads is great to get in front of people who are out of market. So the broader is better, I feel, because then you also get better coverage. And because if you go with a very small subreddit, you may get a lot of frequency with a few people researching it. And if they are not in market, then you've just wasted those impressions. But if you go with like millions plus size subreddit, you'll get good coverage across a lot of unique people. Then that's, I think, more effective. But again, your attribution gets a little more complicated because you have to track like indirect conversion, because people see that they may or may not click on it, and then
they see that on the phone, and then like mostly bots will click, you know, like that's
correct.
What, but like to your point, like it's then you see it in self-reported, or even we had a case I remember, which was kind of like it's always painful, and I never know exactly what to do with it. Is where I remember one of our ICPA researchers saying that they see our ads so often that they trust the product less. And that's the part with smaller
Yeah.
subreddits
Yeah.
also doing, and then the frequency, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, I'm happy that that people know about us, right? Like that's that, like they saw it. Some of them were funny, some of them were not, or like that at least they know what we do. But there's a part where it could be too much, and some
Yeah.
some platforms have a better understanding of that, ad fatigue, and how do you do
Yeah.
the rotating stuff, and the frequency per user, per per creative, or wherever. Like there's so many things, but Reddit is not there yet. Most
Reddit and LinkedIn, I think,
most.
have that challenge. Both of them, if you go too tight on your segmentation, tend to spike the frequency up way a lot. I keep seeing the same promoted posts on LinkedIn again and again, and I'm guessing those brands have like hyper segmented to the point where like the 10 people that they're targeting, and then they're getting like 40 frequency on just to get their impressions in.
I mean, sometimes it is the part of setting up the like you can explicitly go for rotating stuff, rotating creatives, which still won't be exactly rotated,
Yeah.
but at least you have a chance versus if you go for like the highest performing one. So then you get the best creative most of the time, and then that just saturates the feed, and there's a lot of technicalities there, so
Yeah.
like when you actually go to those ads, like get someone who knows those things, and can work on it, because like it could be painful. But I think, like to your point, definitely think about Reddit ads differently than ads that you see on Google. This is a completely different thing, because
Correct.
I'm
They
I'm not
complement.
searching anything. Yeah, it's a demand gen, stuff like it's not a demand capture. Okay, so I think we had some internet trouble at the end, but that was an awesome episode. Check out Aditya Ramakrishnan on LinkedIn. Check out Reo and all the awesome signal based stuff that they're doing. We'll add a ton of links to this episode's show notes. And yeah, see you next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of Going Deeper into Dev Marketing by developer Mark Appare. If you like the show and would like to support, follow the show and drop us a review. It means a ton and helps other dev tool founders and marketers find us. For more dev marketing resources, check out markappare.dev, where you'll find tens of guides and hundreds of examples. For more visual version of this pod, go to our YouTube channel at dev_Mark Appare. See you next time.